Did any of the veteran wrestlers, kind of take you guys under their wings up there?
When WWF?
On Smokey Mountain?
And Smokey? I mean, we got along with everyone. I don't know if anyone really took us under their wings. Tracy Smothers was always great in helping us. Ricky and Robert were great in helping us. But probably who helped us the most without even being there was Midnight Express.
Really?
Because Jimmy had given us tapes and said, go home, watch these tapes, take these moves, and make them into your own.
Huh.
And that's what we did.
Wow.
So without them even being there, they were very instrumental in a lot of the double team stuff we did.
Huh. Well, was the gimmick immediately over? Was it pretty successful early on?
Yeah. I mean, we loved it. It was great because you doing an interview, you didn't have to worry about what you said.
Yeah.
There would be times we'd be talking and I would just stop and look around, and it just worked. It just worked. It got over. We got great heat down in Smokey Mountain. People would chase us back from the ring with knives and just calling them names. I mean, here comes two guys from the Northeast. Don't sound like anyone from Knoxville or anywhere down there, wearing skirts with face paint on and coming out with loud, obnoxious music. So we used to carry the radio to the ring with this loud and let it play the entire match. Put a tape in and just let it play. So it worked very well. It was awesome.
Wow. Are you guys into heavy metal music?
I'm into a little bit. I used to go to some mosh pit dancing and stuff like that with a good buddy of mine who was really into it. We used to go slam dancing and stage diving and all that stuff. So I'm into a little bit of it. I'm more probably alternative grunge than I am like heavy music. But I mean, I like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
I like Metallica, but I also like the Beatles. So it's a big variety.
Was Glenn into it?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really, but he got into it only because I would make him listen to it in the car, so he'd kind of get an idea of what it was about, and give you, he had to get kind of a clue on what to do.
Yeah. So what are your memories of your matches with Tracy Smothers?
Tracy was just crazy. I mean, one minute he's sitting there telling you he loved you, and he would be hugging and kissing you. The next minute he was scaring the shit out of you. Thought he was gonna beat you up. And one minute he was, like I said, loving you. The next minute you thought he was gonna beat up the fan. I think Tracy was bipolar. Right? But I mean, I love Tracy. He was great when we were there.
Wow. How about memories of match with the Dirty White Boy?
Tony. I remember one match in particular. Like I said, Glenn and I were watching the Midnight Express tapes, and we figured out this move. If Glenn kind of straddled the top rope, I was on the top rope, he would superplex me on top of him. So we're doing this little spot down. I pick Tony up, I slam him in the corner, and I look down at him and I go, okay, stay there. And I go up, and on my way down, he's moving. And he rolled out of the way, and I saw him, and I went, oh shit, and I had to adjust my way, and I ended up hurting my knee. Wow. And I was so pissed. I was in the back, and it's probably the first time I ever walked into the locker room, and I was like pissed. And we had the separate locker rooms. I was like, motherfucker, you fucking asshole. And I was so pissed. And the next day when I saw him, I'm like, Tony, what the fuck? He goes, hey, I know what you're doing. You told me to stay. I didn't know what you're doing. I was leaving. He goes, right, no way in hell I'm getting hurt because of you. He goes, I don't know what, you guys are crazy. You're jumping off the top rope. He goes, I don't know what you're doing. And at that point, I just started laughing. One of my funniest things with Tony, though, I don't remember who his partner was. We were in Clarefield, Tennessee. And this was such a backwards town in Tennessee. You actually had to go up into Kentucky and come back down through the mountains to get there. And Glenn and I were going. His wife was like 5 months pregnant. She drove down with us for the weekend. So we go in. We're pulling into the town. There's a big white building. It says, long live the KKK. We're like, oh, wow. Great. Here we go. Face paint, skirts. This isn't going to go over very well. Yeah. So we're in a 2 out of 3 falls match. I think it might have been him and Robert Gibson. I'm not sure if it was him or Tracy. But we're in the middle of the match. Things are going. There's this girl. I start calling her a dirt ball. It's all I'm chanting is dirt ball at her. So they have the rope around the ring. She comes around it, and she's coming at me. So I'm backing up. I'm like egging her on, figuring at some point security's going to grab her. I'm like, come on. I'm egging her on. She kicks me. And I'm like, all right. So now I grab her, and I'm holding her on the apron. I'm still looking around like, security, hello, where are you? And I'm holding her. Next thing I know, I feel this guy pull me this way and spin me around, and I see him coming. And I just beat him to the punch. And I just clocked him. I broke his nose, his eye socket, and his cheekbone. All with one shot, and the guy just kind of fell right into a chair like this, and the blood was just coming. And I remember turning around going, oh shit. I'm like, what did I just do? I'm like, I'm getting fired now. And I turned, I looked at the ring, and I went, oh shit. And Tony's like, get the fuck in the ring. get in the ring. So I'm like, all right. So I slide in the ring. He rolls me up, 1, 2, 3. I stand up. He rolls me up again, 1, 2, 3. He goes, get out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I run into the locker room now, and I'm still like panicking. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just hit somebody. And everyone in the locker room was like, don't get changed. Don't do anything. Grab your shit and get out. And thank God we did, because about 5 minutes after that, all the locals barricaded everyone in. And Brad Armstrong was stuck. And they said, somebody's paying for what happened in there tonight. They had guns and everything. So if we didn't get out when we did, if Tony didn't tell me to get in the ring and do what he did and then get in the back and tell me just to get out, I'd probably be dead.
Wow.
They wanted to shoot me.
So how'd the boys get out of there?
I guess it was all the baby faces were left.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
when we got done, all the heels were we were last match. All the heels were pretty much gone. And we drove for 3 hours. Because from there, we were driving right back to Jersey. We drove for 3 hours before we stopped. We walked into a gas station and all Headbanger stuff to change and all. But yeah, I guess like Brad and them, they ended up talking their way out of it.
Wow.
But yeah, they wanted blood that night. But if it wasn't for Tony, probably wouldn't be sitting here right now.
That was my next question too. Was you're working some different towns? Just some stories about the fans in these towns.
They were crazy. They were backwards. They believed.
Yeah.
Which is what's wrong with the business now. In my opinion, part of what's wrong with it is no one believes anymore. Back then, people believed. I mean, in Tennessee, Arkansas, they believed. When people were coming up and trying to trip you and punch you, and you're running from the ring because someone's got a knife and they're chasing you, you're getting your heat. They believed in what we were doing. They believed that we were hated, and they just believed in what you were doing. There's no belief anymore. Everyone's smart. Everyone knows everything now. They don't believe like they did back then, which is part of what I kind of miss about the way the business is now.
Yeah. Rock and Roll Express, you guys wrestled them a lot. What are your memories of wrestling those guys?
That was awesome. I mean, here's two guys that I grew up watching. 10th grade, I'm at Disney World, family vacation, standing outside President's Hall in Orlando, and I look over, and that's when probably like 9th, 10th, 11th grade is when I was really into wrestling, watching it. And I remember looking over, I look over again, I'm like, oh shit, it's Ricky Morton. So I walked over to him, and he was great. I took a picture with him in 10th grade, the whole thing. And we go to the show, and now here I am, and Rock and Roll Express is sitting in the locker room right next to me. Like, it was just kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I ever met Ricky, what was the line he used? He goes, I don't like the way cocaine tastes, but I love the way it smells. That was the first thing he ever said to me when I met him. And I'm like, all right, great. So here's a guy I grew up loving. I'm like, great. But they were so much fun getting in the ring with, because they were the epitome of tag team wrestling growing up. I mean, them, Powers of Pain, LOD, Midnight Express, those were the guys back in the old NWA, old WCW days. They were the guys. I mean, getting in the ring with them and bumping around with them and working with them. I remember one time we shot Ricky in. Glenn drops down to hit Ricky with the clothesline off the second rope and just busted his nose open. And I remember standing up, going to the ring, going, "Oh shit! I just busted Ricky's nose open." And I just started laughing, and it worked because I got away with it because of the gimmick. But I was more like, "Oh fuck! That's Ricky Morton. I just broke his nose. I splattered his nose. It was an accident." But it was kind of like in awe at first working with them. They were awesome.
Did you and Glenn learn a lot about tag team wrestling psychology from them?
Yeah, we learned a lot of psychology. A lot of our psychology was learned down at Smokey Mountain. It was learned there. Memphis was learned how to survive and not get fucked. Because in Memphis, it was, if you weren't Brian Christopher, if you weren't Jamie Dundee or Wolfie D or Doug Gilbert, you weren't getting over unless, you had to constantly protect yourself. You had to lock your bag down and, because they wanted to do shit to your bag. That was one of the things good about Axel and Ain is when they were in the ring, we stayed down in the locker room to watch our stuff and vice versa. A lot of the learning was done in Smokey Mountain.
Wow. You brought up a couple of names there from Memphis. Brian Christopher. Memories, thoughts?
Brian in Memphis was a total fucking douchebag. Brian as Too Cool, totally different. Brian always had an attitude because, Jerry's my dad and I can do whatever I want in Memphis. This is my home. Fuck you. I'll be here in 3 months. You won't be. So I don't give a shit. I can do whatever I want to you, say whatever I want to you. And he did it. And he got away with it because that was his home. But when he got to WWF, It was a totally different story. I can remember Bradshaw got him in the locker room, Nassau Coliseum, duct taped him up, butt naked, pants down, and was going to just act like he was going to fuck him in the ass. And Brian was crying. It was probably the funniest, most humbling thing I've ever seen from him. He was legit scared. But Brian in Memphis was an asshole. You got him out of Memphis when he was at WF. He was great. He was fun to be around and hang out with. But once he got back to Memphis, he was a dick.